Stephanie, the Koi Mermaid, here to talk to you about Kraken Week. A bunch of us D&D creators have gotten together in an event organized by Ginny D and Pointy Hat to make some videos around the theme underwater, aquatic, ocean, something akin to Shark Week, but slightly less scary. If you, like me, have a shark phobia, like my brain thinks they're in pools, and I know they're not in pools, but my brain still thinks it anyways. Anyways, make sure to check out the videos in the playlist for tons of other really cool underwater themed D&D ideas. Today, I'm going to be talking about aquatic adventure hooks that you can use in your campaign right now. That's right, you don't need a full underwater campaign for your PCs to enjoy their hot Genasi summer. This first adventure hook would be great for a one-shot, a side quest, or as a way to kick off a whole Lovecraftian campaign. But my concept for this one revolves completely around the Kuo-toa and their ability to manifest their desires for weird and scary gods to worship. It's literally in their lore. If they believe hard enough, they can create gods. So I imagine in this particular adventure, there's a Kuo-toa cult that's been frequenting a small seaside fishing village. Maybe they're even trying to establish a home base there. And so depending on how you want to incorporate this into your game, there's a few different ways you can hook your players and kind of work this in with their backgrounds. If one of your PCs is pursuing lost or stolen treasure, maybe it's here in town. Maybe it's related to the Kuo-toa and their belief in offering parts of their spoils to their mysterious sea god that they worship. Or as your PCs were wandering near town, walking along its beaches, come across one of the Kuo-toa's failed gods. One that didn't have enough belief to ultimately achieve sentience. Or perhaps it's even a dead monstrosity created by a god they did end up bringing to life. Anyways, your PCs can find the locals gathered around some strange and horrific creature that washed up on the beach. And those locals are naturally placing the blame on the Kuo-toa fishermen. Or for parties that are partial to searches for lost family members and friends. This cult could be the perfect place to find them. Whether they're dead as a result of being sacrificed to one of the Kuo-toa's gods, or fell in with the cult and are now true believers, someone in this town may know more than they're letting on. Whichever way you go about getting your characters involved here, this is a town divided. Some of the locals are unsettled by the Kuo-toa, but some are also converts after seeing their powers of creation. But regardless of people's beliefs, one night the creations of the Kuo-toa overrun the town in a scene fueled by the things of Lovecraftian nightmares. The town is barraged by waves of nightmarish creatures that walk out of the ocean depths and cause all sorts of destruction. I have a free PDF in the description below that has some stat blocks for inspiration, but I think that you can build out anything that's basically a more horrifying version of a deep sea creature, and that'll make a fantastic monster. Short Rest Studios has a video on the Kraken Week playlist covering some creepy sea creatures that'll make for a great inspiration as well. But these terrifying monstrosities are actually just some more failed gods that the Kuo-toa have created. They should be terrifying and destructive, but also surprisingly easy to kill. That is, until you get to the boss battle that caps this all off. The one true god that this Kuo-toa cult has created, the Kuo-toa Leviathan. And this is a monster that Dungeon Dad will be covering, so make sure to check out his video in the playlist as well. But I imagine this whole scenario being something between H.P. Lovecraft's The Shadow over Innsmouth meets Stephen King's The Mist. So depending on how much time you want to spend on this scenario, you can really flesh out the factions in town and spend more time building out what the Kuo-toa are really trying to accomplish with all of this. And you can even build out a more complex mystery node system for it. And if you want tips on running better mysteries, make sure to watch Val of Corkboards and Curiosity's video on the anglerfish method. But if you want to run this as a combat-focused adventure for higher level PCs, make sure to have multiple waves of scary failed god type monstrosities for the party to deal with before they get to the final boss battle. I think one of the keys to making something with more of a Lovecraftian horror vibe is to really run out some of their resources to make this whole scenario extra tense. And if you're using this to kick off an entire Lovecraftian, dark oceanic type campaign, you'll definitely want your players to watch Colby of D4's Fathomless Warlock build video first. This is the campaign to tie in this subclass. So if you have someone who's been eyeing it, but hasn't been able to make it work until now, this is their chance. Maybe you just can't imagine a sea-themed adventure without bringing your mateys along with you. Hey, sailor. This adventure hook was definitely created with our flag means death in mind. So in this scenario, we have two groups of pirates. One real group and one group looking to play pretend for a few days. I've created a handful of NPCs that you can kind of plug and play that are in the PDF to get you started. But these two groups, they've swapped places for a few days. The more experienced group of pirates in the Pirate King are enjoying some time lounging at the estate of the Baron, who of course is meanwhile busy living out his dreams at sea. The problem is, the Pirate King didn't realize that the Baron's dream included pursuing and catching a very real and very dangerous sea monster. One that the Baron is most definitely not capable of handling. And if you need an idea for a classic sea monster, Pointy Hat and his familiar Antonio are covering the Kraken, as is Treant Monk. And if you want to get a little bit wild and crazy, the Ugly Goblin will also be covering some build your own Leviathan type of fun. So those are two great places to get started. But with this scenario, you can introduce your PCs to either cast of characters depending on how you want to tie this in. If you want them to have more interaction with the real pirates, you can send them on a fetch quest to the Baron's estates. So the Baron has either an item or maybe some information that your party really needs. And from there you can have one of the pirate lackeys kind of offhandedly mention that the Baron is out hunting his sea monster. And the Pirate King will immediately jump into action and try and recruit your party to go help and save his friend. Or if you're more interested in playing up the Baron's ineptitude, consider creating a reason for your players to go travel to a nearby island. When they go to charter away across the sea, the Baron's borrowed ship should be an easy choice. I imagine the Baron and his crew pretending that they're a fishing boat and cutting a great deal with these PCs to transport them, because naturally the Baron will want more muscle on board as he attempts to bag the sea monster of a lifetime, all without your party's knowledge or consent, of course. Another great chance to work in a player's backstory is to see if anyone else is seeking a legendary monster. Maybe they hear the Baron or one of his men talking about it at port. He'll be ecstatic to find someone willing to join his crew. Your PCs just won't know how woefully unprepared they'll be. But this adventure is great for a group looking for classic cinematic moments and cool alternative battle scenes. Both Wizards and Wordslingers and Anto of Icarus games have great videos involving sea combat and underwater combat rules, so don't miss those. But I can already imagine the moment you reveal the true size and nature of this sea monster. The calamity as the Baron's incompetence almost causes the party's untimely demise, and then the renewed hope as the Pirate King and his crew come to your aid and join the fray. I think it would be so much fun, a roller coaster of emotions. And so this would be either a great side quest or a one-shot. And depending on which crew your group ends up connecting with, they might even end up adopting a new pirate friend. And if you can't get enough of pirates and want to try using the scenario as a way to kick off a whole pirate-themed campaign, go steal Trakiro's pirate campaign from their video in the playlist. So I tend to almost exclusively watch horror movies. And most of all, I love a good creature feature. Things like The Thing, Creature from the Black Lagoon, and more recently, Sweetheart. So this type of adventure is one that's best served by having a couple of sessions to play it out over. That way you can really achieve the type of effects that these movies have. You know, that feeling of being followed, of being hunted. And that's the thing I love about a good creature feature. They know how to build tension, because seeing a scary monster is never as impactful as the fear that you can build up in your own mind. So this adventure will rely a lot on building up hints and clues, using hit and run tactics, things like that before a big blowout showdown fight. And of course, the PDF below will contain some ideas on how to help you guys build up that tension. But part of this tension definitely involves interrupting attempts to do long rests before the end. That way you're slowly depleting their resources in a time they need them the most. And while I'm not someone that normally advocates for railroading, the thing with these creature feature movies is that this showdown is all but inevitable. The characters in them spend so much time trying to fortify themselves against attacks, trying to find ways to ward off the creature, but in the end, no matter what they do, it's a fight to the death. So good luck. So while there should theoretically be a way for the players to escape, I think the only way I'd really let them pull this off is by having them leave the area by a wide margin. Which is why it would be great to run this one while they're somewhere a lot more remote or even stranded on an island. That is if you really want the fight to happen. So just be warned, some people get upset about being railroaded even the tiniest bit. Know your group. But otherwise, this can just kind of be a plug-and-play scenario that takes place anywhere near the sea. You don't necessarily need any other hooks than the clues that something is following your party, which means it also doesn't really need to be the main focus of what they're doing until, it is, because they're being attacked. But if you want to make sure there's some sort of trigger action that's setting off this scenario, consider having an artifact for the wizard or the rogue to inevitably disturb, or you can wait till the ranger makes a few bad survival rolls or something like that. But honestly, this can even just be a really fun, simple, low prep one-shot for a party that starts out stranded on an island, especially if they're horror enthusiasts like me. So far these adventures have either been near or on top of the sea. But what if, you want to be in it? You might think that this is too hard for a campaign that didn't start off as an underwater campaign, but there are plenty of ways to make this happen. One of the things I got really excited about was this concept of the PCs boarding kind of a fantasy-inspired submarine, one that's powered by water and air genasi. I imagine this working somewhat like the ship in Shadow and Bone, with the genasi moving water around the ship, preserving a kind of air bubble so that non-amphibious creatures could still breathe. And the reason I really like using something like the submarine idea is because I think with certain types of encounters, you could play a lot with the tension of certain genasi being taken out and having water start closing in on the people on board this ship, including your PCs. And I don't want it to feel immediately dangerous. I just want that tension kind of building at the back of players' minds. But if your players see right through this, like I literally have to cover my face with a fan during certain sessions. I have no poker face at all. The PDF contains a few different magic items that you can give your PCs that might help assuage any fears they might have of you trying to immediately drown them. So you can hook the PCs in on this a few different ways. An easy one is letting them know that they want a thing! If they recently wrapped up some big quests, maybe they're rewarded for something they accomplished with the gift of a free ride on this new miraculous invention. And the NPC that gives it to them can really hype this up. No, you must go! It was the most incredible experience of a lifetime, truly! Don't you deserve a break? And kind of help convince them if need be. Is one of your PCs hunting a lost or forgotten relic? It's at the bottom of the sea. They can swim, right? Or you can simply play into the fact that the deep calls to us all. If you have a Fathomless Warlock player, you can spend time reinforcing this pull to the deep, giving them visions of something down at the bottom. And I think that the Great Blue Hole off the coast of Belize or the Mariana Trench are great points of inspiration for something like this. And with this ship being the centerpiece of this adventure, you can really take it in so many different ways. It can easily be lighthearted and fun, delivering the PCs to some complex underwater city for a few sessions of adventure. And if you're looking to combine this hook with something and really flesh it out a bit more, make sure to check out Darren and Ryan's videos. They're both covering published adventures that you could take a lot of inspiration from as well for this. Or you can run this as a little side quest and make it more of a combat or social focused encounter. Bone Wizard's video features this adorable race of miniature orcas, and they have some reasonably righteous aim stronger against some of the rich and powerful land dwellers that may just happen to be aboard this boat. What if in their attempts to target them, your party and some other innocent bystanders happen to be a side casualty, incidentals in righting a bigger wrong? And as a player, I personally love when I don't think the antagonist is actually wrong. And I think it's always interesting to lob these types of dilemmas to players. They're especially great when you need a little break and want them to just argue amongst themselves about a plan of action for a little bit. Like I said, there are tons of directions you can take this particular adventure hook in, but I really just wanted to emphasize that your PCs don't need to be amphibious to reach these greater depths and enjoy some offshore excursions. Last but not least, we turn to the Feywild. I may have talked about it before, but my favorite setting to create for it is the Feywild. I have a homebrew version that I run for some of my groups, and the possibility for sea themes here are truly endless. And so this adventure hook is great for either incorporating some sea-themed planar travel, or for kicking off a completely underwater or Feywild campaign. And this would be an awesome chance for you to offer some cool amphibious species heritage options, ones like Tritons, Genasi, or Simic hybrids. Or you can check out Ginny D's video for her take on merfolk as a playable race, like me. But for this adventure, I'm imagining that your players end up on a ship in the middle of the sea. Naturally, there's many ways for them to get here, and a few potential hooks include having someone one of your PCs knows, or an NPC that the party likes go missing at sea. If there was a shipwreck, debris would have washed up on shore by now. They're just gone. So this is definitely geared towards more proactive PCs, ones that would want to investigate this mysterious disappearance. Or you can have them run a casual errand that includes travel by boat, but while they're en route, in rolls a strange magical storm. And after fighting the good fight to stay afloat, they end up washed ashore. Just nowhere that they've been before. Are your PCs saps for a good love story? Have them interfere with a man who's attempting to murder a Selkie for seducing his son. This is also a great chance for ships in a sea chase. So in the end, all these hooks involve the PCs coming across the D&D version of the Bermuda Triangle. This unseen portal in the middle of the sea transports them to the Feywild. And once they're through that portal, you can have all sorts of adventures. Your players might start by worrying about how they're gonna get home, but soon enough, they'll find themselves immersed in this new world and all of the problems that exist here. In my PDF, I have some background on a Fey NPC called King Otter, who is the Fey who guards the portal between these planes. So depending on what kind of game you and your players enjoy, they might find themselves in a situation in which they have to pay him tribute, do him a favor, but you can kick off this chapter of their adventures with an interaction with him, or in literally any other way you can think of. So if you want that portal to be more like a whirlpool, and have the rest of this campaign take place totally under the sea, go for it. That way you can access those monster stat blocks, free NPCs, magic items, all the goodies. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as we all did. See you on